In an era where art blossomed and politics were ruthless, one family stood at the center of it all. The world of Renaissance art, the politics of Europe, and the course of history were all influenced by a single family's ambition. They were not kings, nor were they emperors, yet their influence eclipsed entire dynasties. This is the story of the Medici family. In this video, we turn the pages back to Renaissance Europe, where the Medici family, with their astute sense of business, passion for art, and political savvy, wrote their own rules. How did they influence the greatest artists of their time and steer the politics of an entire continent? What secrets lie behind their closed doors, and how did they manage to influence the papacy itself? This video uncovers the less talked about side of the Medici's history. We're revealing the Medici family's hidden truths, their rise to power, dominance over Renaissance Europe, and enduring legacy that shapes our world today. Welcome to Florence, the cradle of the Renaissance, a city of unparalleled beauty where art and culture flourished under the Tuscan sun. But behind this city's grandeur lies the story of a family that would come to define an era. Our story begins not in the grand palaces of Florence, but in the humble hills of Mugello, where the Medici family first emerged. From these modest beginnings, they would rise to staggering heights. In 1397, a pivotal moment occurred. Giovanni De Medici, a man with a vision, founded the Medici Bank. Through his shrewd business acumen, this bank would grow to become the largest in Europe, laying the groundwork for an unprecedented ascendancy. But the Medici were not content with mere financial success. In the heart of Florence, the Medici family was about to weave their influence into the very fabric of the city. From bankers to rulers, their ascent was not just about wealth, but about power, culture, and a legacy that would forever change the world. But how did this prosperous banking family evolve into patrons of the most pivotal artists of the Renaissance and the clandestine rulers of Florence? Enter Cosimo de' Medici, the elder statesman of the Medici dynasty. Under his rule, the Medici Bank not only flourished, but also became a cornerstone in the complex political landscape of Renaissance Florence. Cosimo, unlike his forebears, was not just a banker. He was a visionary, seeing beyond the ledgers and gold, understanding the true currency of the time, influence and art. He transformed his wealth into cultural capital, patronizing the greatest minds and artists of the era. Cosimo's patronage wasn't just an act of vanity, it was strategic, fostering an environment where artists like Brunelleschi, Donatello, and Fra Angelico could create works that echoed the Medici name through the annals of history. Under his guidance, Florence bloomed into the cultural heart of Europe, but Cosimo's reach extended far beyond the arts. He was a master of the political game, using his wealth and influence to steer the direction of Florence's future. Cosimo's masterstroke was the Council of 70, a body he formed and filled with allies. It appeared democratic, but was a Medici tool, subtly shifting Florence from a republic to a Medici-dominated state. On the wider stage, he was a key player in the Treaty of Lodi in 1454, balancing power among Italian city-states. This treaty exemplified Cosimo's skill in regional politics, extending the Medici influence beyond Florence. Cosimo's blend of behind-the-scenes political strategy and public cultural patronage laid a robust foundation for the Medici dynasty, paving the way for his grandson, Lorenzo the Magnificent, to elevate their legacy. As we turn the page to Lorenzo de' Medici, known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, we enter the most illustrious chapter of the Medici story. Lorenzo took the helm of Florence in a turbulent time. Yet, under his guidance, the city experienced an unparalleled flowering of art and culture. Under Lorenzo's patronage, Artists like Botticelli and Michelangelo found not just a sponsor, but a muse. His court became a crucible for artistic talent, giving rise to some of the most sublime works of the Renaissance. Yet Lorenzo's rule was not a seamless narrative of triumphs and artistic glory. It was marred by a perilous episode that threatened the very heart of the Medici dynasty. Lorenzo's reign faced a formidable challenge in the form of the Pazzi conspiracy, a plot that would test the very foundations of Medici power. Orchestrated by the rival Pazzi family and backed by other powerful figures, including the Pope, this conspiracy aimed to overthrow the Medici and reshape Florence's political landscape. The conspiracy reached its climax in 1478, within the sacred walls of the Florence Cathedral. In a brutal attack during Mass, Lorenzo and his brother Giuliano were ambushed. Giuliano tragically succumbed to his injuries, but Lorenzo narrowly escaped, wounded but alive. The aftermath of the attack was a turning point. Lorenzo's response was swift and decisive. He rallied the citizens of Florence against the conspirators, swiftly quelling the uprising. The conspirators, including members of the Pazzi family, faced severe retribution. This event not only cemented Lorenzo's power, but also elevated his status among the Florentines. He was no longer just a leader, he became a symbol of resilience and a guardian against tyranny. The conspiracy, meant to weaken the Medici, ironically strengthened their rule, as Lorenzo's authority and the Medici's control over Florence were reinforced. The Medici's influence on art wasn't just about funding. It was about fostering stories, controversies, and turning points in the Renaissance art world. Take, for example, Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. Commissioned by the Medici, this masterpiece was more than just a beautiful portrayal of mythology. It was a bold statement in a time when religious themes dominated art. The Medici's choice to promote classical mythology was a daring move that pushed the boundaries of artistic expression. Then there's Michelangelo's David, a masterpiece of human form and expression. Funded by the Medici, David was not just a statue, it was a political symbol. Standing tall in the heart of Florence, it represented the city's defiance against larger, more powerful states, much like David against Goliath. But the Medici's influence extended far beyond the arts. Their grasp on political and religious realms shaped not only Florence, but also the broader European landscape. As savvy politicians, the Medici used their wealth and connections to control the levers of power in Florence. Their influence was so pervasive that they maneuvered 4 family members into the papacy, altering the course of religious history. Popes like Leo X and Clement VII were not just religious figures, they were Medici by blood. Their papacies were marked by significant events, including the Protestant Reformation. The Medici popes played critical roles in these tumultuous religious times, navigating the Church through periods of profound change and challenge. The Medici understood the power of strategic marriages. They intertwined their lineage with royal families across Europe, including France and Spain. These unions were not just matrimonial, they were political masterstrokes that expanded the Medici's influence across continents. Through political maneuvering, religious influence, and strategic alliances, the Medici family became one of the most powerful dynasties of their time. But every dynasty has its zenith, and for the Medici, the peak was followed by a gradual decline. As the generations passed, the once formidable grip of the Medici on Florence and European politics began to loosen. The later Medici rulers, while still influential, could not match the brilliance and foresight of their forebears. Their rule, increasingly autocratic, lacked the transformative vision of Cosimo or the magnificence of Lorenzo. Florence, under their governance, slowly receded from its position as the cultural and political beacon of Europe. By the time Giangaston, the last Medici Grand Duke, passed away in 1737 without a male heir, the once glorious dynasty came to a quiet end. With him, the Medici line faded into history, leaving behind a Florence vastly different from the one they had once dominated. Yet, the legacy of the Medici is anything but forgotten. Their story is more than a historical account. It's a reminder of how a single family with ambition and intellect can leave an indelible mark on the world. Today, as we walk the streets of Florence, as we gaze upon the masterpieces in the Uffizi, or look up at the magnificent dome of the cathedral, we are witnessing the legacy of the Medici. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history, art, and power. Keep exploring, keep wondering, and keep connecting with the stories that make us who we are.